For centuries, two European giants clashed not only on their own soil but across continents and oceans. Britain and France engaged in a fierce rivalry that shaped the map of the modern world. From North America to India, from the Caribbean seas to Africa's coasts, their battles were fought in distant lands far from Europe's borders. This rivalry was about more than just land. It was a contest for global influence, trade dominance, and imperial power. But how did this intense competition begin? What key events and battles defined this struggle? And how did it ultimately shape the British Empire's rise? The rivalry between Britain and France spanned centuries and defined much of the colonial world order. It involved shifting alliances, brutal wars, and monumental political changes. As we explore this story, here is a question to consider. Which country do you think had the greater impact on world history during their centuries-long rivalry, Britain or France? Now, let's embark on this epic journey through history. In the shadowed corridors of medieval Europe, a fierce rivalry took root between two emerging powers, England and France. This rivalry was not born overnight but grew from tangled claims, shifting alliances, and a struggle for dominance that would span over a century. The Hundred Years' War, fought intermittently from 1337 to 1453, became one of the earliest and most significant conflicts in European history. At the heart of the war lay a dispute over the French crown. English kings, through complex family ties and political claims, asserted their right to rule France. This assertion sparked a protracted series of battles and sieges, turning fields and towns into theaters of war. The conflict was as much about identity and power as it was about territory, drawing kingdoms into a prolonged struggle that shaped the destiny of both nations. England entered the war with ambition and skill, achieving remarkable victories in battles that showcased the effectiveness of new tactics and weapons. The English longbowmen, in particular, became legendary for their role in crippling French cavalry and shaping the outcomes of key engagements. These early successes allowed England to seize vast areas of French territory and raise hopes of lasting conquest. However, the tides of war are seldom constant. The French, though battered and pushed back, resisted fiercely. Over time, they adapted their strategies, rallying around charismatic leaders and drawing strength from a growing sense of national unity. Among these figures, Joan of Arc emerged as a symbol of courage and inspiration. Her role in lifting sieges and revitalizing French morale marked a turning point in the conflict. Joanna's influence helped the French reclaim lost ground, culminating in a series of victories that gradually reversed England's earlier gains. The war's final decades saw the French push English forces out of most territories on the continent, restoring their kingdom's integrity and ending a chapter of foreign occupation. The Hundred Years' War was more than a battle over land. It forged deep-seated animosities and shaped the political landscape of Europe for centuries. It introduced new methods of warfare, altered feudal relationships, and spurred the rise of stronger centralized monarchies. The legacy of this prolonged conflict echoed through history, fueling national pride and rivalry that would flare in later centuries. This long and tumultuous war defined an era of chivalry, strategy, and relentless struggle. As England and France clashed on fields scattered across Europe, they set a foundation of competition and conflict that would resonate far beyond the medieval age. In the stories of knights and soldiers, sieges and battles, the Hundred Years' War captures the complexity of medieval politics and warfare. It tells of shifting fortunes and enduring rivalries, a saga woven into the fabric of both nations' histories. This long and tumultuous war defined an era of chivalry, strategy, and relentless struggle. This era of warfare and rivalry invites reflection on how the past shapes identity and destiny. It offers a window into a world where power was contested by sword and strategy, and where the echoes of conflict helped to define the character of two great nations. Through the smoke and dust of battlefields long gone, the story of the 100 Years' War remains vivid, reminding us of the enduring nature of rivalry and the profound impact of history on the present. The 17th century marked a critical turning point as European powers began casting their eyes beyond their own shores, seeking new territories, wealth, and influence across the globe. Among them, Britain and France emerged as fierce competitors, each eager to establish a foothold in distant lands. This era of colonial expansion set the stage for centuries of rivalry and shaped the world in profound ways. Britannia's ambitions took shape along the eastern coast of North America. Small settlements gradually grew into thriving colonies. Their fortunes tied to the land's vast resources and strategic locations. Across the Atlantic, Britain also set its sights on India. A land rich in spices, textiles, and precious metals. The challenge was immense, but the promise of new trade routes and wealth fueled relentless exploration and conquest. France, meanwhile, claimed vast territories in what is now Canada and the vast expanse of Louisiana, a region that stretched from the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico. French explorers and settlers navigated dense forests and winding rivers, establishing trading posts and missions. Their presence introduced a different culture, language, and approach to colonial governance, distinct from their British rivals. The competition between these two powers extended beyond simple land claims. To this end, powerful trading companies rose to prominence. Acting as instruments of both economic expansion and political influence. The British East India Company, chartered in the early 1600s, became a cornerstone of Britannia's overseas ambitions. It was more than just a commercial enterprise, it wielded military power, governed territories, and negotiated alliances with local rulers. Its reach extended deep into India, where it competed fiercely to control trade in valuable commodities like spices, silk, and cotton. At the same time, France established the Compagnie des Indes, a rival trading company designed to challenge British dominance in the East. This company operated across Asia and the Indian Ocean, engaging in commerce and diplomacy. Both companies embodied the blend of commerce and conquest that defined colonial expansion. The rivalry between Britain and France in these early settlements and trading ventures was intense and unrelenting. Each sought to outmaneuver the other through alliances with indigenous peoples, military engagements, and the establishment of strong economic networks. The stakes were high, as control over colonies meant access to resources, strategic advantages, and increased influence in global affairs. Alongside their competition, these powers faced immense challenges. The unfamiliar landscapes of North America and Asia tested the limits of their knowledge and technology. Harsh climates, resistance from indigenous populations, and the difficulties of long-distance communication and supply placed constant pressure on colonial administrations. Despite these obstacles, the 17th century witnessed remarkable growth in overseas settlements. Coastal towns developed into bustling ports, serving as gateways for goods and people traveling between continents. Plantation economies emerged in the Caribbean, producing sugar and other cash crops that fueled European markets and generated immense profits. Trade routes crisscrossed the oceans, connecting Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas in an increasingly complex web of exchange. Ships laden with goods sailed these routes, carrying everything from timber and furs to spices and textiles. These global connections laid the groundwork for the modern world economy. Yet, this period was not only about economic opportunity. It was also marked by the often harsh realities of colonialism. The expansion of European powers disrupted indigenous societies, altered ecosystems, and introduced new social dynamics. Competition among European states sometimes led to violent confrontations and wars fought far from the continent's heart. The struggles and achievements of Britain and France during this era set in motion a series of events that would shape geopolitical boundaries and cultural identities for centuries. The early settlements became the foundations of modern nations. while trading companies evolved into powerful entities influencing politics and economics worldwide. This age of exploration and rivalry teaches us about the complex interplay of ambition, commerce, and culture. It reveals how determination and innovation allowed distant powers to extend their reach across vast oceans and unfamiliar territories. At the same time, it reminds us of the costs and consequences that accompanied this expansion. The story of colonial competition in the 1600s is one of bold ventures and uncertain futures, where empires took their first steps on a global stage. It is a chapter marked by courage and conflict, where the promise of prosperity was balanced by the challenges of survival and governance. The legacy of this period is still visible today in the languages spoken, borders drawn, and histories remembered across continents. Understanding this era invites reflection on the forces that shape our world and the enduring impact of decisions made hundreds of years ago. The competition between Britain and France was not merely about territory or wealth, it was about the beginning of a new era, one defined by global ambition and the relentless pursuit of power. The early settlements and trading ventures of the 17th century stand as testament to human endeavor and the complexities of empire building. They remind us that history is a tapestry woven from countless stories of exploration, conflict, and cooperation across time and space. Through this lens, we see the origins of modern globalization and the intricate dynamics that continue to influence international relations. The echoes of colonial competition resonate far beyond their time, inviting us to explore the roots of a shared yet contested world. In this unfolding story, Britain and France played pivotal roles, shaping the course of history through their ambitions, innovations, and rivalries. Their legacy remains a powerful chapter in the ongoing journey of human civilization. The late 17th and early 18th centuries were marked by intense rivalry between Britain and France, a conflict that extended far beyond European borders. The wars that raged across the continent spilled into the vast wilderness of North America, igniting fierce battles for control over forts, territories, and influence in the New World. King William's War, beginning in 1689, was the first of these clashes. It was a conflict rooted in the larger struggle for power between two great European powers. But here, in the dense forests and rugged landscapes of North America, the war took on a different character. It was a brutal and unforgiving struggle, where traditional European tactics met the challenges of frontier warfare. Here, in the dense forests and rugged landscapes of North America, the war took on a different character. The fighting was scattered across vast and often remote territories. Native American tribes played a crucial role, aligning themselves with either the British or the French, depending on their interests and relationships. These alliances added complexity and intensity to the conflict, as indigenous warriors employed their own strategies and knowledge of the land. These alliances added complexity and intensity to the conflict, as indigenous warriors employed their own strategies and knowledge of the land. The fighting was scattered across vast and often remote territories. Forts changed hands, supply lines were disrupted, and alliances shifted. Native American tribes played a crucial role, aligning themselves with either the British or the French, depending on their interests and relationships. These alliances added complexity and intensity to the conflict, as indigenous warriors employed their own strategies and knowledge of the land. The fighting was scattered across vast and often remote territories. The wilderness was a harsh and unforgiving battleground. Soldiers and settlers alike faced not only enemy fire but also the challenges of weather, terrain, and disease. Skirmishes were often sudden and fierce, taking place along rivers, in dense forests, and across expansive frontiers where supply and communication were difficult. Following the end of King William's War in 1697, a brief period of uneasy peace gave way to renewed conflict. Queen Anne's War, which erupted in 1702, saw the continuation of hostilities between Britain and France in North America. The stakes remained high as both sides sought to expand their territories and solidify their claims. This war extended the brutal and complex nature of frontier combat. Key battles were fought over strategic forts and trading posts, vital to controlling access and influence. The involvement of Native American allies remained significant, shaping the outcomes of many engagements. The war's brutality and the harsh conditions tested the endurance and resolve of all involved. The conflict finally came to an end with the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713. This treaty marked a significant turning point, redrawing the map of North America. Britain emerged with valuable new territories, including parts of what is now Canada and several islands in the Caribbean. These acquisitions strengthened British influence and set the stage for future expansion. The wars of this era were more than military confrontations. They were struggles for survival, identity, and power. And the harsh realities of warfare on the frontier. They revealed the complexities of colonial rivalry, the importance of indigenous alliances, and the harsh realities of warfare on the frontier. The legacy of King William's and Queen Anne's wars echoes in the history of the continent. A testament to the enduring impact of these early conflicts in the New World. This period shaped the future of North America, influencing the balance of power and the development of colonies that would one day become nations. The legacy of King William's and Queen Anne's wars echoes in the history of the continent. A testament to the enduring impact of these early conflicts in the New World. This period shaped the future of North America, influencing the balance of power and the development of colonies that would one day become nations. The legacy of King William's and Queen Anne's wars echoes in the history of the continent. A testament to the enduring impact of these early conflicts in the New World. This period shaped the future of North America, influencing the balance of power and the development of colonies that would one day become nations. The legacy of King William's and Queen Anne's wars echoes in the history of the continent. A testament to the enduring impact of these early conflicts in the New World. This period shaped the future of North America, influencing the balance of power and the development of colonies that would one day become nations. The legacy of King William's and Queen Anne's wars echoes in the history of the continent. A testament to the enduring impact of these early conflicts in the New World. This period shaped the future of North America, influencing the balance of power and the development of colonies that would one day become nations. The legacy of King William's and Queen Anne's wars echoes in the history of the continent. A testament to the enduring impact of these early conflicts in the New World. This period shaped the future of North America, influencing the balance of power and the development of colonies that would one day become nations. They revealed the complexities of colonial rivalry, the importance of indigenous alliances, and the harsh realities of warfare on the frontier. The mid-18th century was marked by a conflict that spanned continents and oceans. The Seven Years' War, fought from 1756 to 1763, was the first true global struggle between Britain and France. Two great rivals vying for supremacy. This war was fought on multiple fronts. In the heart of Europe, armies clashed over territory and influence. Across the vast wilderness of North America, colonial forces and indigenous allies battled for control of the continent. In India, distant from the European battlefields, forces led by ambitious commanders sought to expand their nation's influence. The Caribbean islands, rich with resources, became another critical theater in this sprawling conflict. One of the most significant theaters of the war was North America. Here, the struggle took on a new intensity as British and French colonists fought alongside their native allies. The British campaign to conquer French-held Canada was a turning point. With determination and strategic skill, British forces captured key forts and cities, undermining French power in the region. The fall of Quebec and Montreal signaled the decline of French influence on the continent. Meanwhile, in India, Robert Clive emerged as a pivotal figure. Leading British East India Company forces, Clive won decisive victories against French-backed rulers and their armies. These triumphs expanded British control, laying the groundwork for a growing empire in the subcontinent. The clash between British and French interests in India was as much about trade and political influence as it was about military conquest. The war's global nature meant that events in one region could. Naval battles on the high seas disrupted supply lines and reinforced the importance of maritime strength. Control of the oceans became vital to supporting distant armies and maintaining communication between colonies and the homeland. The war's global nature meant that events in one region could affect outcomes in another. After years of intense fighting, the conflict drew to a close with the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1763. This agreement marked a decisive victory for Britain. The treaty confirmed British dominance over Canada and much of North America, as well as increased influence in India. France, once a powerful colonial force, suffered significant losses, reshaping its role on the world stage. The 7 Years' War had profound and lasting effects. It redrew the map of colonial possessions and set the stage for future conflicts and expansions. Britannia's emergence as the world's leading colonial power was secured, backed by military success and strategic diplomacy. This war revealed the interconnectedness of global empires and the importance of naval power, economic resources, and alliances. It was a conflict that transcended borders and defined an era of imperial ambition and rivalry. The story of the 7 Years' War is one of struggle and strategy, of distant battlefields linked by the tides of empire. It illustrates how the contest for global influence played out across land and sea, shaping the destiny of nations for generations to come. In its wake, the world saw the rise of Britain as a dominant force, its empire spanning continents and its navy ruling the waves. The legacy of this war is woven into the fabric of modern history, a testament to the far-reaching consequences of global conflict. The American Revolution, ignited in 1775, quickly evolved into a conflict that reached far beyond the 13 colonies. For France, still smarting from losses in earlier wars, the Revolution presented a strategic opportunity. By supporting the American quest for independence, France aimed to strike a significant blow against its longtime rival, Britain. France's decision to join the fight was a turning point in the war. It was not merely a gesture of solidarity but a calculated move to regain influence and weaken British power. The French government provided vital financial aid, ensuring the American forces had the resources to sustain their struggle. Beyond money, French troops arrived to bolster the colonial militias, bringing experience and discipline to the battlefield. Perhaps most decisive was the French Navy. Britannia's strength rested heavily on its control of the seas. But the arrival of French naval forces challenged this dominance. French ships disrupted British supply lines, supported American operations, and played a critical role in cornering British forces, leading to their eventual surrender. The defeat was a profound shock to the British Empire. Losing the American colonies dealt a severe blow to its prestige and territorial holdings. Yet, this loss did not diminish the fierce rivalry with France. Instead, it intensified competition, setting the stage for future conflicts. Moreover, the war exposed vulnerabilities within Britannia's colonial system. The loss highlighted the dangers of underestimating colonial discontent and the challenges of governing distant territories. These lessons sparked changes in British colonial policy, influencing how the empire managed its remaining colonies in the years that followed. The American Revolution, with France's involvement, was more than a colonial rebellion. It was a global struggle that reshaped international relations and altered the balance of power. France's role underscored the interconnected nature of 18th-century conflicts, where local revolts could become theaters for great power competition. This chapter of history reveals the complexities of war, alliance, and empire. It shows how strategic interests can align with ideological causes, creating alliances that shift the course of nations. The French support for America was driven by a desire to regain strength, yet it also contributed to the birth of a new nation founded on principles that would resonate worldwide. The story of this period is one of ambition, sacrifice, and transformation. As France and Britain clashed over the fate of distant colonies, they shaped a future defined by new nations and shifting empires. In this tale of war and diplomacy, we witness the intertwining of ideals and interests, and the enduring impact of a revolution that changed the world forever. The French Revolution sent shockwaves across Europe, shaking established orders and igniting fierce conflicts that would define a generation. Amidst the chaos, one figure rose to dominate the continent: Napoleon Bonaparte. His ambitions to reshape Europe threatened the balance of power, and Britain stood at the forefront of opposition. For more than 2 decades, the Napoleonic Wars unfolded, a relentless struggle between France's expansionist dreams and the coalitions formed to resist them. Britain's role was crucial, leading alliances with nations such as Austria, Prussia, Russia, and others determined to check Napoleon's advance. At sea, the Royal Navy asserted its dominance with a fierce resolve. The Battle of Trafalgar in 1805 became a defining moment, where Admiral Horatio Nelson's bold tactics shattered the combined French and Spanish fleets. This victory secured British control over the seas, cutting off Napoleon's ability to invade Britain and protecting vital trade routes. Meanwhile, on land, battles raged across Europe. Campaigns ebbed and flowed, with armies clashing in territories stretching from Spain to Russia. Britain's support came not only in troops but also in financial backing and diplomatic efforts. The British government financed allies, coordinated strategies, and maintained pressure on multiple fronts. Napoleon's forces initially achieved remarkable victories, reshaping borders and imposing new laws. Yet, the resilience of the coalition grew, fueled by the hardships of prolonged conflict and the determination to restore stability. Key battles such as the Peninsular War in Spain drained French resources, while the disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812 marked a turning point. As the coalition pressed forward, Napoleon's grip weakened. The final confrontation at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815 sealed his fate, ending an era of war and upheaval. Britain emerged from this prolonged conflict not only victorious but also elevated to unprecedented global prominence. The Napoleonic Wars transformed Britain into the dominant global power, with a vast empire bolstered by naval supremacy and economic strength. Its influence extended across continents, shaping political and social developments for decades to come. Britain's leadership in building and sustaining coalitions proved essential in countering a formidable adversary. The story of the Napoleonic era is one of endurance, strategy, and shifting alliances. Reflecting on this period allows us to understand the roots of modern Europe and the emergence of Britain as a global hegemon. The lessons of leadership, perseverance, and cooperation remain relevant in addressing challenges today. The Napoleonic Wars remind us that history is shaped not only by battles, but by the determination of peoples and governments to navigate conflict, adapt to change, and secure peace. This chapter stands as a testament to the enduring spirit of resistance and the complex forces that define power. The 19th century witnessed a dramatic expansion of imperial ambitions as Britain and France extended their long-standing rivalry far beyond Europe. This competition spread to the vast and diverse continents of Africa and Asia, where both powers sought to carve out colonial empires that would define global influence for decades to come. In Africa, the period known as the Scramble for Africa saw Britain and France racing to claim vast territories rich in resources and strategic importance. The continent's landscape became a patchwork of colonial possessions, drawn with little regard for existing cultures or boundaries. Egypt, with its vital connection to the Mediterranean and the Red Sea through the Suez Canal, became a key prize. Control over this region offered Britain a critical route to its prized colony in India and enhanced its global maritime dominance. France, meanwhile, asserted its presence in North Africa through the colonization of Algeria. This marked the beginning of an extensive French empire in the region, built through military campaigns and administrative control. Further west, in areas now known as West Africa, Britain and France found themselves in frequent competition, each vying for influence over trade routes, natural resources, and indigenous populations. This territorial rivalry was often marked by tension and occasional clashes, yet the two powers generally managed their disputes through diplomacy and carefully negotiated treaties. These agreements delineated spheres of influence and sought to avoid open conflict, balancing ambition with pragmatism. In Asia, the dynamics of imperial rivalry took a different shape. Britain consolidated and expanded its control over the Indian subcontinent, turning it into the jewel of its empire. British administration reshaped the region's political and economic landscape, integrating it deeply into global trade networks. India became a vital source of wealth and manpower, underpinning Britain's status as a global power. Further east, Britain's reach extended into parts of Southeast Asia, securing strategic ports and territories that linked its empire across continents. These acquisitions helped secure maritime routes and facilitated trade with China and beyond. France concentrated its efforts on Indochina, establishing control over territories that would become modern-day Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. This colonial venture was marked by efforts to impose French culture and administration, creating a distinct sphere of influence separate from British interests in the region. The imperial rivalry in Asia, much like in Africa, was characterized by a delicate balance. While competition was fierce, Britain and France often avoided direct military confrontation, relying instead on diplomacy and the strategic use of treaties to manage their expanding empires. Throughout this century of expansion, both empires adapted their strategies to the unique challenges posed by distant lands and diverse peoples. The colonial administrations sought to exploit economic opportunities while navigating local complexities, often reshaping societies in profound ways. The legacy of this rivalry is etched into the histories of Africa and Asia. The borders drawn, the cultures influenced, and the economies transformed bear the marks of this imperial competition. It set the stage for the geopolitical realities of the 20th century and left a lasting impact on the world's political and cultural map. The story of Britain and France's colonial rivalry in Africa and Asia is one of ambition and caution, conflict and compromise. It is a tale of two powers extending their reach across the globe, shaping the course of history through a mixture of force, diplomacy, and strategic vision. At the dawn of the 20th century, Europe stood at a crossroads. For centuries, Britain and France had been fierce rivals, locked in a cycle of conflict and competition that shaped much of the continent's history. Yet, by 1904, a remarkable transformation was underway. An era of hostility was giving way to cooperation and cautious friendship. The Entente Cordiale, signed in 1904, was a landmark agreement between these two great powers. It resolved long-standing colonial disputes that had often threatened to ignite new conflicts. Territories and spheres of influence once fiercely contested were now delineated with mutual respect, opening the door to a more peaceful coexistence. This accord was more than a diplomatic settlement. It was a shift in mindset. Britain and France began to see each other not as enemies, but as partners in a rapidly changing world. The Entente Cordiale laid the groundwork for a deeper military and political alliance that would soon be crucial on the world stage. Underlying this new partnership was the growing concern over Germany's rising power. The German Empire had been expanding its military and industrial might, unsettling the traditional balance of power in Europe. Both Britain and France recognized that their security depended on standing together against this emerging threat. This new relationship was instrumental in shaping the political and military strategies leading up to the First World War. In colonial territories from Africa to Asia, the agreement eased tensions and clarified control. Britain and France agreed on their respective interests, reducing the risk of accidental clashes thousands of miles from European capitals. This helped stabilize regions critical to both Empresa wealth and power. Beyond colonial concerns, the Entente fostered cultural and political exchanges. Diplomats, military officials, and intellectuals began to build bridges, learning to trust and cooperate despite a history of rivalry. The spirit of the agreement resonated in the capitals of London and Paris, symbolizing hope for a new era of collaboration. Yet, this newfound partnership was born of necessity as much as goodwill. The shadow of Germany loomed large, pushing Britain and France into alignment. The Entente Cordiale became a cornerstone in a complex web of alliances designed to deter aggression and maintain peace through strength. This period saw rapid changes in military technology and strategy. Both nations invested in modernizing their forces, preparing for the possibility of conflict. The naval arms race, particularly between Britain and Germany, added urgency to the alliance, underscoring the importance of unity. The Entente Cordiale's legacy extends beyond its immediate political impact. It reshaped Europe's diplomatic landscape, creating a foundation for collective security and cooperation. It demonstrated how old enemies could find common ground in the face of new challenges. As tensions continued to rise in the years that followed, the partnership between Britain and France proved vital. It was a key factor in the alliances that defined the early 20th century and influenced the outbreak of global conflict. Looking back, the Entente Cordiale stands as a pivotal moment in Historia, a testament to diplomacy's power to transform rivalry into partnership. It changed the course of European relations and set the stage for the alliances and struggles that would shape the modern world. This story of reconciliation and realignment reminds us that even the deepest divides can be bridged through dialogue and shared interests. The Entente Cordiale marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where cooperation replaced conflict, altering the balance of power and the fate of nations. The dawn of the 20th century brought with it a conflict unlike any the world had seen before. World War I erupted in 1914, plunging Europe into a brutal struggle that would last 4 harrowing years. At the heart of this vast conflict, Britain and France stood together as pillars of the Allied forces, united in purpose and resilience. From the outset, the cooperation between Britain and France was vital. As German armies surged through Belgium and northern France, the Allies confronted an unprecedented military threat on the Western Front. Trenches stretched for miles, a tangled network of earthworks that became both fortress and prison. Soldiers endured unimaginable conditions: mud, cold, constant danger, all while locked in a deadly stalemate that would define much of the war. Despite the horrors of trench warfare, the alliance between Britain and France held firm. Commanders coordinated strategies, shared resources, and maintained communication amid the chaos. This unity was not simply a matter of military necessity but a testament to a deep bond forged through shared sacrifice and determination. The battles were fierce and costly. Places like the Somme, Verdun, and Passchendaele became etched into history as symbols of endurance and suffering. Yet, through these trials, the Allies gradually wore down the German forces. New tactics emerged, including coordinated infantry advances, artillery barrages, and the cautious use of emerging technologies like tanks and aircraft. The perseverance of British and French soldiers was matched by the strength of their home fronts. Civilians supported the war effort through labor, rationing, and unwavering resolve. By 1918, the tide was turning. The combined pressure of Allied offensives, reinforced by fresh American troops, began to fracture the German lines. The final months saw a relentless push that forced the Central Powers into retreat, culminating in the armistice that ended the fighting on November 11. The victory was hard-won and came at an enormous cost. Millions of lives were lost, and the scars of war ran deep. Yet, the cooperation between Britain and France during these years left an indelible mark on both nations. Their intertwined histories were forever changed, bound by the shared experience of resilience and sacrifice. This period also set the stage for the complex relationship that would define much of the 20th century. The bonds forged in battle influenced diplomacy, alliance building, and cultural exchanges in the years that followed. World War I was not just a military conflict, it was a moment that reshaped identities and the very map of Europe. In remembering the Allies on the battlefield, we honor not only the soldiers who fought, but also the spirit of unity and determination that carried them through the darkest hours. Their story is a powerful reminder of the strength found in partnership and the enduring impact of shared struggle on the course of history. The legacy of this alliance continues to resonate, offering lessons on cooperation, courage, and the costs of war. It stands as a testament to how nations can come together to face immense challenges and emerge with a renewed sense of purpose and identity. The story of Britain and France is one of rivalry and cooperation, a dynamic that has shaped the course of global history over centuries. From early clashes over territory and trade to the great wars that engulfed Europe, the rivalry between these two nations pushed boundaries in exploration, politics, and culture. Each sought to expand their influence, carving out empires across distant lands, while simultaneously igniting advancements in technology, governance, and diplomacy. This rivalry shaped the world map as borders shifted with the outcomes of battles and treaties. Colonies in North America, Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean changed hands multiple times, reflecting the ebb and flow of power between Britain and France. The consequences of these shifts resonate today in the diverse languages, legal systems, and cultural traditions found across continents. Yet, the relationship between Britain and France was never solely antagonistic. Periods of cooperation emerged, particularly in the face of shared threats or common interests. Alliances forged during major conflicts, such as the Napoleonic Wars and the World Wars of the 20th century, demonstrated the capacity of former rivals to unite for a greater purpose. This complex interplay of rivalry and alliance highlights the fluid nature of international relations. It teaches us that history is not simply a story of enemies and friends but a tapestry woven from shifting alliances and pragmatic decisions. Understanding this helps us appreciate the foundations upon which the current global order stands. The cultural influence exchanged between the two nations is profound. Literature, art, philosophy, and political ideas flowed across the Channel, enriching societies on both sides. This cross-pollination shaped modern Western identity and contributed to the development of democratic principles and institutions. Trade and exploration were also driven by this rivalry. Competition to discover new lands and access valuable resources spurred technological innovations in navigation and shipbuilding. These advances expanded the horizons of human knowledge and connected far-flung regions through commerce and communication. At times, the rivalry led to devastating wars that altered the fate of millions. Yet, from these conflicts arose lessons in diplomacy and peacebuilding, laying the groundwork for international cooperation mechanisms. The ability to move beyond conflict toward partnership reflects the enduring resilience and adaptability of both nations. Today, Britain and France share a partnership within broader international frameworks, working together on issues such as security, climate change, and economic development. Reflecting on this legacy invites us to consider how rivalries can drive progress while also emphasizing the importance of dialogue and cooperation. The relationship between Britain and France exemplifies the balance between competition and collaboration that continues to define global affairs. The story of these two nations is a powerful reminder that history is shaped by complex human interactions. It challenges simplistic narratives and encourages a deeper exploration of the forces that influence the rise and fall of powers, the spread of ideas, and the building of communities. This enduring dynamic not only shaped the past but continues to influence the present and future of the international landscape. Through understanding this shared history, we gain insight into how nations navigate the challenges of coexistence, learning to transform rivalry into partnership for the benefit of all. The legacy of Britain and France stands as a testament to the intertwined destinies of nations, revealing the power of both competition and cooperation in shaping the world we live in today. Thank you for joining this exploration of the epic global rivalry between Britain and France. This story is a testament to how competition can drive nations to greatness but also to cooperation and peace. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep uncovering the remarkable tales of our past.